if you want a good board, you get it from a good shaper. For me, what I want to do in kiting is I just want to ride a wave like I do surfing.
I'm going to talk about one of my favourite moves to do here on the sunny coast in side onshore winds. This move, I guess you could say, is like really old school in the surfing world, but I also think it's one of the most timeless moves that you can do, especially if they're done right. First off, this is absolutely the beauty of the kite. I often talk a lot about using the power of the kite or the power of the wave and then, combining the two. In this particular move, I'm using the full power of the kite. So the first key fundamental to recognise here is that you do need to turn your kite throughout the turn, and you absolutely have to turn your kite before you start turning your board. This is a, fundamental thing that you need to do, throughout any manoeuvre if you are turning your kite. Because if you don't turn your kite before you turn your board, what's going to happen is you're going to get slack lines when you turn your board, and then your kite is not going to be as responsive as what it needs to be, to the point where it may not even turn at all. The quicker you turn your kite or you turn it more on a pivot, the more straight up and down you're going to be able to go with this turn. And the more drawn out you turn your kite, the more longer and harder you can sort of carve your board, across the top of the lip or, through the wall of the wave. On the way up to hitting the lip, the kite's going in one direction. And as I hit the lip, I'm changing the kite to go in the complete opposite direction. So essentially, I'm swinging it right through the power zone, and I'm mimicking the exact same turn that my kite is doing with my board. It's really key to do this, because if you aren't on par, with turning the same as your kite, that's where you're going to get slack lines, or your kite's going to fall out of the sky, or it's going to do something crazy. You want to try and keep the lines as tight as possible, but without the kite overtaking the direction of where you want to go. Because I'm trying to get as much speed and power as possible before I hit the lip, I've got my bar sheeted all the way in. As I hit the lip, this is where I've already sent my kite in the direction that I want it to go. So if I've got that right, which I do on this particular turn, then all I need to do is actually sheet the kite out and complete my turn, because the kite's already sent in the direction that it needs to go. Halfway through turning my kite back in the opposite direction, that's where I want to be hitting the lip. So when you get to the lip, this is where you're going to sort of really throw your weight forward, and then to help counterbalance, throwing your weight forward, what you want to do is lay back. I mention a lot throughout my techniques that you really want to lower your center of gravity. Essentially, that's what you're doing here. You're just doing it in a different form. So throughout the turn, it's absolutely key that you've got as much speed as possible, because if you don't have enough speed, your board's going to get flung out in front of you and you're going to sort of lag behind it. So you need to make sure that you lower your center of gravity and lay back, and that you move in the same direction with the same amount of speed as your board, or else your feet are going to fall off your board. With this particular move, what really excites me is that you can go into it with a huge amount of power and basically just throw yourself at the lip or at the wall. And it's really a matter of, seeing how hard you can push it to see, how the maneuver sort of turns out. And, what I like most about it is every time it seems to be different. Sometimes your fins will release, other times your whole board will slide, other times you'll hold a really strong, tight carve. So there's some really good variations in this turn, and that's what I like most about it. And I guess it's just the sheer power that you throw into it. Obviously, the faster you're going and the faster you turn your kite, the more power you're going to be able to put into the move, and that's what I like most of all. Okay, just a few key points to remember when you're trying to throw down your first ever drop wallet is speed's everything, like with most turns, but make sure you really use the kite and the power of your kite through this turn. If you have too much speed, sheet it out. If you don't have enough, sheet in as much as possible. And then, you know, your three things to balance yourself throughout the turn. One is your kite. Use your kite, you know, to your advantage. Two is lowering your center of gravity. And three is laying back on the wave. You know, that's ultimately what the move is, a big layback snap. So, you know, utilize those things, and I think you can have a really fun time, you know, doing this move.